Cool. So, welcome to class. Today we're gonna build off our pros and cons list, or make sure that feels complete within us, because we have a little matrix that we're gonna be filling out, and then we'll jump into starting our worksheet for getting to know your customer. And so, but I know some people are on the move still, so actually, let's start with getting to know your customer, and then we'll finish with the market stream matrix and give ourselves 15 minutes for that. So in the resource folder, there's two templates. And so you can go and make a copy of that, make your own. Let me share my screen. Understanding your customer, not getting to know your customer. Great. Yeah, so this is we're trying to understand who we're selling to. And I think I mentioned in our first class or second class, just the difference in, someone who's going to buy a vegetable CSA box is going to be very different than like a wholesale grocer. So, and their buying habits and who they are. And so the first half, which of the class or the matrix, we're going to do that at the end of class, but that's going to help you prioritize who your different customers are. And we're prioritizing our different market streams kind of in this sense of who am I selling to, and how am I selling to them? How am I getting the word out? Mm-hmm. So direct to consumer sales, it's like having a farm stand. How do you get the word out that you're having a farm stand? I'll look at Fox Point's a great example of a brand new farm that's trying to get the word out, and they're doing a ton of partner marketing and influencer social media stuff. It's really great photography. They're just driving it out there that, hey, we're open, we're here, we're here, we're here. And so getting your face or your business in front of enough eyeballs often enough and creating a buzz so that somebody comes to your farm or wants to actually get your CSA box, that's takes a lot of marketing and effort. But it's really fascinating to kind of think of social media as that tool, and really putting yourself out there to such a point to be no, I am here, this is who I am, and this is what I'm offering. And that's why I love this matrix activity, because if you, whatever option you're choosing, you get to really just step into this is the farm I am, this is who I'm selling to, and let me focus and commit to serving this one customer or two customers, but being really good at that before trying to spread ourselves really thin across multiple different types of customers. So yeah, I'm curious to hear what kind of customer maybe we would want to explore in class today as a group. And then, you can have this and do it on your own. But yeah, I'm curious what kind of, who do we want to explore as our potential buyer? We want to talk about someone who's going to come and do a farm dinner and be a participant. We want to talk about a farmer's market customer, or a restaurant buyer, maybe a grocer. Yeah, poke that Miro board.
I have some ideas, but I don't want to overly influence. I would also really, really be happy to step back. But if I were to choose, I think the customer that might drive through my community and stop at an on-farm stand, or a small grocer customer, or small retailer, I guess I should say.
Small retailer. Cool. Hannah, you're driving. I don't know if it's easy to unmute.
I would also be curious about the small retailer, or kind of what we talked about before of the I think it's the small retailer. The name is blanking on me, but selling to other small businesses of kind of that customer. I'd be
Cool.
curious about that as well.
Sienna, any thoughts?
Yeah. Um, I'm like torn. I guess the one that feels most pressing now is like people coming for events or experiences or workshops,
Mm-hmm. Right.
which for us tends to be a lot of families or young people if we're like getting into that kind of specifics of demographic.
Okay. Why don't we do in tangent? We'll do getting folks like on the farm. I think like workshops and farm stands are somewhat similar.
I'm also
Just
very happy to do the retail
retail.
side as well. For us, like we have built in like we know our own market and our own restaurant are going to buy from us, but that next layer of like our customers are the public like actually buying the things from the market.
Yeah. That might be interesting too for you all to, as things unfold, what happens if the restaurant can't take all the produce or it's not selling fully at the retail market and you have this extra produce? Is there another outlet that you can generate revenue from?
Yeah, we
So
care a lot about the answer to that too.
yeah, it's so dynamic. You've only been there what for like 4 months of it being open? Super new.
Yeah, I
4 5
guess I
months.
forget that it's
Yeah.
only been that long.
It feels longer. It always does. Cool. All right. So let me see if I can zoom this better. I swear I know how to use technology. So let's start. Understanding your customer. So this first product, let's actually write it here. We'll do selling to other small businesses, retailers. So some examples of these types of companies, businesses would actually probably be your harvest market, Sienna, to some extent. Harvest market. Um, yeah, just like a local corner store, um, small goods store.
Like People's Co-op, People's Grocery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what's also interesting? I mean, I think Jimbo's takes it to that next level because they have multiple stores. So they kind of build these systems. So now they're in this next level of operation. Oh, Suncoast Market would actually probably be in here too. They're a brand new co op down in IB, opening soon. Get in while you can. um, Trying to think, or even like some of your, like if you had a value added product, you could be selling that to like any kind of like boutique outlets. So, gosh, even was I saying, like a winery, like little snack boxes at a winery, you can be like selling your produce and like raw carrots and cucumbers and things that people can dip as they're doing wine tastings. Maybe you're in an area that has got like a lot of wineries or other places where people are snacking. So there's another business to business
Or
example.
even like cafes or restaurants that sometimes sell like little products in the front.
Cafes. Yeah, more in terms not for their kitchen, right? But in terms of like,
Yeah, because we're not talking about like restaurant purchasing, right? That would be
right.
like
Yes.
wholesale, right?
So that's a good thing in products. We're going to be doing like raw vegetable products here. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So then I guess the other products.
Yeah. Is yeah, we're really just selling raw veggies. That's a great place to start. Sure, value added products, but we're really just focusing on raw veggies right now. And so here's our customer. So now we're getting in the mind of like, why is OB Peoples wanting your product? I feel like I can answer a lot of these questions for you, but I want you to think about it.
Because their mission statement and their shareholders say that they want to support local produce, so they want to present their customers with local options.
Oh my gosh, local is such a hot word now. Local has many different definitions depending on who you talk to, by the way. So the bigger the grocer gets, the more they try to like fudge that. Like, oh, local's California. Well, you know. Or is local within our county, you know?
Mm-hmm. Or local within like 5 miles or something.
Yeah. And it depends on where you are too, because maybe you're in a region, there's spots in like Central California where you're in the middle of like all the almond groves and like a very low income area. And so, you know, a 25-mile radius actually doesn't have a lot of veggie diversity because it's
Yeah.
all almonds or something.
Yeah. I'm always amazed how many people are at our local farmers markets that have driven from like northern or like the Central Valley every weekend driving. It's crazy.
Who else is, how else do we want to describe our customer?
Well, in answering like why do they buy your products? Because they're delicious and beautiful and you're like consistent and on time. I guess like a reliable what would that be? Provider for them in terms of like quality and organization.
Yeah. I think also, since we're talking business to business, these are potentially other small businesses that maybe can't meet the quantities required for like a wholesaler or a middleman. So both parties are able to do like smaller quantity.
That's a great point. And as you were saying that too, like um, small businesses, and we mentioned this before, wanting to support other small businesses.
Mm.
Yeah.
I guess you're able to sell it as a price point that works for them as well as a small business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like theoretically cutting out the middleman and doing a direct sale like that is hopefully giving each person a better price.
Yeah.
I also would like hope that by doing business to business, it's cutting down the like delivery and transportation distance. Like, you know, maybe we would choose the local businesses that are not in the Escondido morning traffic or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah. Yep. It's very true. Oh, we can always come back to that. I think. Oh, I wonder how long Hannah's been waiting to get back in. We can always get back to this. I think some of these answers are going to filter down below, so it'll be easy to pop those in too. Sometimes it's asking the same question many different ways. So, yeah. What's the problem we're trying to solve for them? Well, sorry, freshness and quality.
Providing product for their store to sell to their customers. Hi, Hannah.
yeah, like Sienna, when you mentioned having little like grab snacks at a coffee shop, I feel like that's solving the answer for the coffee shop, where if they don't have to have a kitchen, but they can still have an answer to like a hungry customer.
Like that hungry customer.
I think also it's like meeting their mission or like being able to like carry out their mission is a little bit of the problem that we're helping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we mentioned that. Yeah, definitely up front, but like, and that's solving because it really is um, like the local farm utilizes US regenerative practices because that's generative in quotes. Not all businesses are there yet. Yeah, not like it meets their problem. Say provide delivery. You don't have to go pick things up. Buy in, I mean, it's the same thing. Buy in small quantities. Asking the same question in different ways.
Yeah, I think especially it like the solving a problem for them feels really important when it is a stricter structure. Like I think with Peoples, since they're, a shareholder owned cooperative and they have bylaws, and in those bylaws they make a commitment and they do define what local is and like how much of their produce is going to be local, or they made a commitment to not sell meat products in there. So they have a lot of like strict requirements of their own business. So providing something that meets all of those requirements is really like solving a big challenge for them.
Yeah.
Um,
How
and
can
if a
we,
small,
yeah. And that's what Hannah was saying too. It's something about like, yeah, really is, I mean, is their mission and keeps them in integrity kind of thing. Thinking of a lot of these zero waste grocery stores are popping up right now. So, like, you can help them by providing bulk product, not in plastic. All right. Let's move on. Make sure who are your customers? I feel like we answered this. Who are your customers? But this question's kind of getting me more into like, because of the value, it's like, why is somebody going to shop at these smaller businesses kind of piece? So, like, who's that customer that's like coming to purchase from like a OB People's grocer? Why are they choosing a co op versus bonds? Why is someone choosing a small business zero waste store instead of, Jimbo's, who also talks about no plastic at their operation?
So more like the demographic or like the descriptor of the person.
Yeah, let's just make sure. Let's go through all the questions. Sorry, I'm here as much as I can be. just to see if that's checked in. So, who are your customers? What customer needs are you satisfying? Why is your product offering unique from other solutions? Who's your competitors? That's a good question we should get into. Um, Customer relationship. How are you going to reach your new business to business customers? How do we keep them? Where are we distributing them? Through, our own personal vehicles, through other wholesalers? How much does that cost? Can we do that in their time schedule? Okay. And then setting some goals for customer retention. Okay. Yeah, this is where I want to, talk more about like your target, like who are they, like the demographics.
Like, would you put in there like, wait, hold on, how would I say this? I was gonna say like conscious, but like people who are like conscious of sustainability or
educated around sustainability. I've heard a lot of that. Educated customer comes up a lot in some things worlds. It's like they know about sustainability and they care, so they're gonna like act on that.
yeah.
Or yeah, like caring about where their food comes from and the quality um of that food.
I know, like my guess, I was gonna say like maybe they're a younger demographic, but I don't know that that's true. But like under 50 kind of like in that like 20 to 50 range potentially of like a little bit younger but old enough to maybe have some way that they can be able to shop at a store that is like a local business where something
When you
I don't
say
know,
some way to shop, are you saying kind of like have the means, like the financial means?
yeah, like they have the means to shop there. And yeah, I imagine someone that's in that is like a younger demographic, that's kind of like under 50.
Mm.
I'm not naked, by the way. I've got a dress on and it looks on. It's a weird Zoom outfit.
Remember, yeah, so we have things like other market stores, corner stores,
Oh, the corner stores.
Suncoast Market, OB People's, little boutique outlets and wineries, places where there's small goods.
I was picturing like the zero waste market in my mind.
Yep.
We just talked about that.
Yeah. Convenience. Convenience. It's in their neighborhood. And then kind of like where your customers appreciate convenience.
Or even like people who connect to the like they connect to the values behind what's there. Depending on which example we're choosing of these stores, but they're maybe they connect to the story of like what's behind like the why behind all of this. If they're like interested in sustainability, like kind of like they're choosing it because of the values that they hold.
Yeah. Like on the flip side of convenience would be because there's less of these places than like your normal grocery stores, like people going out of their way to shop there, because they care.
So like have the time to have the means money, have the means slash time
Transportation
out of their way.
And I wonder if some like generalizations about San Diego demographics could apply to these specific places too. Like someone was just telling me that in a lot of studies this year about like the healthiest communities in the United States, Anchorage and San Diego were like vying in the top couple. And so it's like generally an active, healthy demographic that has a higher than or a longer than average lifespan, like all of these things that might be the right type of customer for a fresh produce business or something. Or might, maybe eat more fermented vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just like comparing California with Mississippi, I feel like would be a different thing.
Yeah. I know where they call it in Wisconsin, they have the California burger. What's on the California burger? It's not avocados. It's just lettuce, tomato, and onion. Veggies.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Did
scary.
you see that, Hannah, when you were there?
No, I've never seen that. I'm gonna have to ask. I have to ask somebody about that.
Yeah.
That is like
It was like in northern Wisconsin. So yeah, it's hilarious. Like, yeah, us Californians love our veggies. We're healthy. Yeah, San Diegans are a health focused community. I'd say, would you say we're like community oriented? Like, I feel like we do appreciate local in general, or do you think there's like a large? I'm so in the bubble. I don't know. Maybe we all are. We're
It
like,
depends.
we love local. But
I think it depends. Like, I feel like San Diego's so big, and like, I feel like there's such different communities that exist all over. And I feel like it's very different. Even in like North County, I think you could say some parts maybe
yeah,
focus in community more and others don't.
yeah, that's where too. It's like that in the neighborhood piece where I was like, oh well, if it was in La Mesa, I don't know if I'd drive over there, but it's right here. My Origins Grocery, so I'll go there. Thing, yeah. How far is inconvenient?
I think it's generally a more educated population than like the average. And so it does seem like, at least, from conversations at the farmers market, like people are reading ingredients and telling you about studies that they read about certain things. And so they're like maybe doing a little bit more research about nutrition and food than an average person. But yeah. Also, there's so many universities in San Diego that I feel like probably almost any part of the county you might be encountering like a student demographic, or you could pursue that demographic if you wanted that to be
Yeah.
part of your customer base.
I mean, that piece of that highly educated customer, and it's like, especially as that customer gets more access to money or time, they're gonna be the ones too that want to go to your farm and like visit the farm, and because San Diego's tourists were so outdoorsy, like finding those opportunities to like be out in the um, outside and on a farm. It's like a unique opportunity. Versus a farm that's like I'm just thinking of you too, Rachel, in your small community. It's like, well, then it's not necessarily so much about time necessarily. If it's like right there and it's in your community, then your farm becomes like a easier access point, and then it becomes more of like creating a welcoming space for the type of person that you're going to welcome onto your farm, because that's a very real piece too of we're talking about the type of person that would normally go into these places, but then sometimes when we're talking about food shed, it's like, how do we make access to other communities that don't have that? How do they feel welcomed into the space? Because if you're not highly educated and maybe don't have the money or the time, it's like, how are those? That's why it's a different type of customer, like almost when we're talking about this lens. So just wanting to kind of throw that in the mix. I see you thinking, Rachel.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like, yeah, thinking about making a welcoming space, or like how a space is coded and it's your on farm stand. Like, if someone has a fear of dogs and you have farm dogs running around, that's going to impact them. And I think, there's a lot of demographic data about who has had negative experiences with dogs. Or if you have political signs in the yard that make someone feel uncomfortable supporting your business, like, maybe an on-farm stand, someone's going to learn more about your values as a business than they would just buying your stuff at a farmer's market or in a store. And so, like, being aware, I guess, of how that space is coded for that.
Very true. Yeah. Huh. I like thinking about that.
Yeah. Like, are on-farm stands included in what we're talking about right now?
I mean, it was kind of a veering off, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you want to add something though, since we're on the topic?
I was just gonna say, in that case, your like customer would become your direct like neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah, they're literally in your community with you. They're wanting to support you one on one. Whether or not they bring their families, do they see kids around? Is it kid friendly, dog friendly, not dog friendly? These are interesting. pieces.
Or yeah, I mean something I'm curious about, and I get we can save this.
Yes. Yeah.
But for like an on-farm stand, it's like if just getting your neighbors to the farm isn't going to be enough to support that business, then it's also just like what is the pass through traffic and like how do you stop? Like I think was it on this call? Maybe it was a different call. We were talking about how many farm stands are in Ramona area,
Mm-hmm.
and well, yeah, was with
Yeah, it was
you,
here.
and it's like you can be getting a lot of pass through traffic because people might be visiting wineries. So you're not just getting the Ramona community, but you're getting people that are going by. And like out here, there's a big nature preserve with like dirt bikers, or they're going on their way to the casino. So it's like, how do you make your farm stand be more than just the neighbors in a small town? Because I don't think that would be sustainable. But yeah.
This reminds me of David and the tiny farm because he's always super over self-deprecating and saying that they're a bread stand that happens to sell veggies because they buy from Jane's Baking Co. and sell bread. But I think I think he over dramatizes it, but I think there is probably some grain of truth in like people being drawn in by this local bread, but then because they're there, they're also gonna buy veggies.
Yeah.
Can't wait to go there. Keep hearing great things.
Yeah.
Saturdays. So they're Saturdays. 9:30 to noon, I want to say.
Which I guess is like kind of the reason why grocery stores exist, or like what a lot of grocery stores capitalize on, because I think for a lot of human history, we had like a separate bakery and a separate veggie place or grains or and grocery stores. The whole thing is like they want us in there and they want us to buy like a lot more than what we originally came for, which could be a benefit to like selling at retail places is people might be going to buy other things, but then they might leave with your product because they're there and they see it and it looks nice.
Yeah, it's like they say the Costco rotisserie chickens, Costco loses $1 or $2 on every single one, but they make it all up in how many other things you put in your cart when you just went there for the cheap chicken. And so the chickens are always in the back of the store because you got to walk by everything to get to one. And yeah.
I always wonder about those chickens and how they can charge so little for them.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Barons, they do the same thing. And then the flowers are often used, like Trader Joe's. Most places use them as loss leaders. So the bouquets are so beautiful in the front and the colors, like the bright reds, like they make you like hungry. Bright red, bright yellow. It's why fast food chains are bright red and yellow because it makes you hungry. So you have those flowers in the front of your grocery store and you're like, oh, I'm hungry and I need to buy more food. And so you have them as your loss leader. So yeah, people are used to cheap flower bouquets, cheap anything. I mean, that's a kind of a, I mean, I guess it's a side note, talking about the strawberries, like growing strawberries because it's something people are going to come for your strawberries to your farm stand, or, maybe that's kind of this like, why is your product offering unique from others? It would be like certain crops are so delicious and stay so much fresher. And so that's like your lettuce mix, berries, um, yeah, etc. So I think people are, what customer needs are you satisfying? It's like people want nutrient dense food. I think that's like grown well. I mean, it gets into this layer of aligning well with your buyer, because I think a lot of people are trying to get this nutrient dense food and like can sometimes mistaken local as nutrient dense, or like a lot of food gets marketed. Oh my gosh, that gets into competitors. Yeah, there you go. These like imposter farms.
Wait, what do you mean by an imposter farm?
Be like a farm that's calling themselves, that's like leveraging the local regenerative movement and kind of positioning their product as like local and regenerative, even if it's not, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, using the word local to imply that they're like healthy and like meeting all those standards of like why people lean towards local, but they're actually not that great.
No spray.
Yeah. Like it's just like utilizing greenwashing methods.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Or it even just seems like something less nefarious than, a misleading farm, but just like another local business that's in your same space, like at the same retail shop or at the same farmer's market, but they're selling like at the market, there's a really amazing woman who does freeze-dried candies and like it's incredibly not nutrient dense, but it sells incredibly well because her brand is like she's a very small artisan, like woman-owned business and local, and she has her kids helping her with the business. Like it hits all the other marks, but when it comes to like the product itself is not nutrient dense or something that I would.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a business I wanted to support, but not a food I wanted to eat. And I think there's a lot of businesses like that in these spaces where we might be selling something that's more farm oriented, so being able to differentiate that for a customer, that one thing is like a whole fresh food and another is not, even though they're both, the business is owned by a nice local woman owned, whatever the markers are.
Mm. I'm also thinking about like businesses that maybe have been around or farms that have been around for longer that have a strong, consistent customer base. Like even I feel that way when I go to the grocery store or the farmer's market. Like I guess I have the brands or the sellers that I trust and or I typically go to. I I like to try and buy from different vendors to like support for fun, but I feel like most of us we are like comfortable buying from our familiar ones.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's hard for me to say why our product's different, but like that branding piece kind of can really help you set apart to like break into those that competition, right? Someone's like, oh, JR, but like if you can be like, oh, can I put a sign up in the store that's got just a little blip like, hey, I'm grown 10 miles from here, like here's a picture of me on my farm or something, to help people be like, oh wow, cool, I want to support a woman owned farm, or
Yeah.
this other type of farm. So it's just like really kind of building that story. So and when possible, storytelling. Otherwise, yeah, you're kind of going off of you don't have much branding if you're like, twist tying your kale bunches or something, right? But that is a form of branding. And I do notice that, right? Not just organic standard twist ties, but like custom labeled ones.
Mm.
But that's why I like a salad mix where you can get like a nice sticker on the thing, or, bulk salad mix that people can grab from. I don't know how food safety that is actually these days, those bulk salad mix things, but
I would love to do that.
yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen those anymore.
Yeah, I don't see them either anymore.
Where did they have that? I don't think I've ever seen that.
They would just have it at like the grocery store, like Henry's or Sprouts. Henry's back
Just
in the day before it was
like
Sprouts.
loose
Yeah, you just have like
lettuce or
bins with
something.
bulk salad mix.
And like tongs, you can just
Yeah.
put them and then fill them in your bag.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Nope. I mean, that competitor piece is like, yeah, that gets into a lot of interesting things of like when you have a hungry customer coming into a store and like they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get some like veggies or something for dinner, and then they're like, oh well, I don't know, maybe I'll grab the rotisserie chicken, or maybe I'll grab the sandwich from the deli, instead, and then their dinner plans are thwarted because they're just hungry in that moment.
Mm.
We're your competitors, busy lives.
Capitalism.
Yeah, fast food.
Yowzers.
Just like cheap food too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like how farms are different is because, and like why a small retailer is going to work with you. I kind of want to put this out there again. We talked about the, you're going to be friendly. You're, friendly and easy to work with, you know. Um, I don't know why people's loves us so much at, Be Worthy here, but they're just like, oh, we just love you. We just like think you're so great. And I'm like, gosh, what is it about us, that makes people excited? It's like, I think part of it's the brand, but then it's also we come in and we're like, oh my gosh, hi, great to see you. Here's some flowers. It's like, if you can have a like connection with your customer and like, so like more opportunity for connection.
Is this answering the how are you different from them question?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Separate it. And then like I like want to put quality on there, except I just know so many new farms struggle with quality and getting a quality up there. And so, you know, um, growth towards quality. Question mark.
It seems like each business could probably come up with one thing that's very unique to that business, like operating on a quarter acre or
right.
pulling up concrete to nourish soil back to health to grow the veggie, like whatever the like unique thing is. Everybody has that thing, so that would be the standout.
Leveraging your thing.
Yeah. Most number of farm cats.
I get one automatically because I'm a farm cat. So anywhere I go. Yeah, that's just a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Is leveraging in on that thing that people know you as, and especially as like getting going, it's a lot of this is going to be asking your customers like, oh, why, what makes you so excited? And Be Worthy, it's like, oh, the bees, man, I just love the concept of bees. That's just so cool. Like bees, I've had somebody tell me that there's some bees like 5 times in the sentence. It's like, but yeah, oh, woman owned, like that's really popular. Like local, super popular. Those are like bigger concepts, right? But then getting in this highly urbanized area, or like Mia Good Neighbor Gardens, it's like, oh, that's such a cool concept. You're growing in these small gardens. Salter Farms growing in different people's backyards and grows a very high quality premium product, just a few things. Or it is it's leaning into that storytelling. And that's, this is a marketing class too. So it's really important to lean into the marketing and the branding and the storytelling.
Thinking about it with like the brewery industry, which is, so big in San Diego. It's like
Yeah.
what would make someone choose one brewery over another if the beer quality is equal, which for a lot of them, they're all equally amazing. And what I like is when you walk in a brewery and you figure out like what their shtick is. Like one was like Pure Project. It's all like Costa Rica themed, tranquil, or like
Yeah.
Modern Times is vegan owned, and they're all about that. Or one is like a former chemist or like rocket scientist, quantum brewing. I just went there and it's like everything's all themed about that. And so you like learn about the person and who they are and how they came to be a brewer. And I do feel like I feel the most connection with farms when you figure out like what's their why for farming and what's their unique perspective. What was their life before being a farmer and how does that show up on their farm now?
Yeah. Singing Frogs Farm, we're all biologists, and they're like incredible soil biologists now, make just the most amazing produce because biology was their thing. And so that's really cool. They're super nerdy. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I think we're having to move into that space as there's more small local farms and we're going into the same places. It's, yeah, how are we different? Yeah. We can't compete necessarily on cost or price. We can compete on like storytelling and brand alignment.
And I think like you were mentioning earlier, Kat, about that like personal connection piece, because I can think of many examples where I've had just a meh or like a bad interaction with someone, even though I might like their product, but that makes me less inclined to buy from them again because I'm not resonating or connecting with them or like yeah, the energy that they're putting out.
Mm-hmm. Very true. All right, just a couple more questions. I do want to get to the matrix still. Um, yeah, so how are we reaching these new customers? This one's, I feel like, pretty straightforward of how you reach out to business. It's a lot of like cold calling, showing up with your product. And availability lists. Yeah. I think it's also a word of mouth. Yeah. So if somebody sees your product and some other stores like, oh, I really want that, that's quality, or they hear about it, they'll want your product too and seek you out for good quality things. How do you keep these clients though? Business to business. That reliability piece is really important. So being consistent, like that's how you're going to keep these clients is like really always having your salad mix every week because if they need to go and skip you to go to a somebody else, like who is their backup, and that's where some of those our competition's actually really great, like oh yeah, awesome, I'm glad you have a JR Organics that's on your big veggie roll anyways, and I just grow these few items, and if I miss it, there can be leniency so you can like support your other farms in that way. um, but otherwise like really being consistent in like consistent week to week and quality product, and say in responding to feedback well and promptly. People have complaints and you're like, oh wow, that happened, so sorry, let me discount, or make it up to you, can make your life easier.
Maybe a little bit of anticipating needs, like especially as once you have an established relationship, you kind of, if you do your own record keeping or paying enough attention, you can know like, oh yeah, they're probably going to need some extra of X, Y, and Z around Thanksgiving, or the week after Thanksgiving might be a little slow. I will anticipate that they'll order a little less, and like letting them know that you are thoughtful and aware of those things or flexible enough to work with them on that.
That's huge right there. Yeah. Like, especially they don't know things, but if you're noticing trends, like I always keep an eye on, Fox Point's like stories on the weekends. I'm like, oh, okay, which bouquets are selling, which colors. Oh, they're not really into the oranges yet. I'm going to keep bringing pinks, and I'm like curating orders for them because, I have the capacity to like figure out what is selling or not selling. And sometimes these produce managers are really, really busy. So they can't always have the granularity that they would like, to address like waste or, unbought produce.
I think like in that vein, not waiting to be asked, but like knowing, as you said, Rachel, like knowing and anticipating the needs, but also presenting options and being like, I always find I have to be more like send more emails or like more social media posts like than I think. I'm like, who's gonna read this? Or like I send this email, I send the same email pretty much every week, but like sure enough, then there's like a few more people that sign up for the CSA the next week. So and like Kat, I'm thinking of when I was making bouquets with your flowers and you presented the option of, well, we have all these like things, these smaller stems that we're not using, and you're making smaller bouquets anyway. And it like I didn't even know that was an option. So just
Right.
like, yeah, knowing your buyer, your customer, and
Yeah.
not waiting to be asked for things, but presenting things that they might like.
Yeah. Love it. Cool. Distribute your products. I would say this is like a direct to retailer. So like not using middlemen. Really? You're not. I'm trying to think of in San Diego if there's any kind of company that would pick up your produce and take it somewhere at our small scale. I just don't think that's in our wheelhouse, I'm guessing.
Does specialty do that?
Yeah, it's like then we would sell the specialty. Yeah. And then they would be selling to restaurants or these smaller retailers. And that should be put in competition. Or real one. Especially if you're doing restaurants. Specialty produce. Yeah, so there are these like smaller, I think there's a few other ones of those, but like specialty produce is one that like focuses more on like a local farm, but they're not. Yeah, I don't know, have experience working with them. But yeah, you're essentially going to be going direct to retailer in your own delivery vehicle. Yeah, maybe you partner with a neighbor farm. This is really going to be your time and fuel costs. The time. And that's like when we're thinking of some of these efforts, it's like, oh, how far am I going to be willing to like drive, to them, and how big of an order. So I think that was one of the cons we talked about here too. Is like, yeah, it's small orders, but it can be small orders. And like if I'm just delivering 16 bunches of kale to OB Peoples and I'm having to drive 25 miles, this was Wild Willow back in the day. And like Peoples at that time was only willing to spend $1 a bunch on their kale. Like it doesn't make sense to deliver $16 worth of produce. So like needing minimums, to make it worth your effort. That's one of these things the Jimbo's require, it's like, oh, what's your minimum? I'm like, it's, $150. Otherwise you get to spend a $25 delivery fee kind of thing.
Yeah, and maybe on top of that, sort of thinking of like stacking functions is only choosing businesses that you could then have like a CSA drop off in the neighborhood, or like making use of the route, I guess. That would make you choose to sell to one business versus another. Is like, what else is in that neighborhood that's going to make it worth the drive? Or
And like literally the cost of a vehicle, or like a refrigerated vehicle or one big enough. We had an order from Food Shed one week, and it was during that heat wave. And I think just in the hour that it took for Greg to drive it down in the back of his pickup truck, our stuff got really wilted. And they sent us some like feedback that it just like wasn't good quality. And we had harvested it that morning. So like we knew that it was good. And yeah, and they don't have a pickup system, so we had to drive it down versus specialty produce, like they're already coming on site to drop off things our other businesses have ordered. So then they just like pick up our produce and they have a truck that's refrigerated. But yeah, the cost of like a refrigerated vehicle.
The real thing. Yeah, the cooling temps. It's like getting your product cool enough before it goes so that it can survive a long drive, or yeah, like having a short enough drive so that it won't like get damaged if it's fresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all those
or
things.
having the business, I don't know what Food Shed's hours are for drop-offs and stuff, but for like a small retail business, like making sure, I guess, that they would let you do like a 6 a.m. drop off or something if you're trying to keep it cool, or do a after sunset drop if you had to harvest all day, or whatever the routine is. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was the next question.
Wow. Nice, Rachel.
Yep. Customers are already buying. So you hope they would have like invoicing systems, and yeah. I'm working with like a relatively new small business, and they're very challenging to work with because they're new, though, right? And don't pay their bills on time, or are disorganized, or message at the last minute. So it's like a lot of this stuff is like, in general, it's a small business, but then there's other types of small business, or any customer that like, if you're going to respond to that CSA customer's text every night at 10 p.m., about what to do with their beet greens, like, do you want to make yourself available to that type of customer? And so a lot of this is seeing like this, small business, this is what they require. You have to kind of show up and meet them in that way. But then you can also really think of like, oh, well, I'm never going to be somebody that wants to be friendly and accommodating to another small business. I'm cranky all the time. So I don't want that. I just need a big wholesale distributor or something you can think of. But yeah, when you try and think of who's your customer type, hyper focusing in, I feel like we can dive deeper, but that's into like other types of customers. But I'd be interested to see if anybody else does this for different types of customers and what kind of things it brings up. Your homework, if you want to share, if anyone wants to share. All right, we're over time. We started late, but I really want us to get on this marketing channel thing. It's going to be super quick and easy because I want you to have really intuitive thoughts. So if you haven't already clicked on this link, you can, or you can simply get a piece of paper and make a chart in front of you. And so on the vertical axis, you're going to be putting what your different market channels are. I have this one for Be Worthy. And this was us trying to like, I want to do all the things. We're going to be everything. We're really excited, right? We have all these different ideas. We want to be all the things to all the people. And so we listed them all. We kind of tried to, at some point we're thinking like, oh, agritourism is the same as value added products. So we tried to like group things in some places, but I mean, each of these products slash like market stream things, they're all unique. They all have unique customers. They're going to require unique efforts. So um, go ahead and list those on your vertical axis, and then across the top. Um, oh, you're all on here. Perfect. So it's these ranking scores. So I'll give you some moments to copy those over. Trying to gauge when people are ready.
Ready.
You ready? Hannah's ready?
I made a copy of your document, so I'm just doing it.
Okay, perfect. I'm filling in vertically. Fill in your market streams, CSA, farm stand, B2B.
Wait, do you want us to number them yet?
No, not quite yet.
All right.
Yeah. But is everyone ready for the basic frame? Anyone need more time?
I need one
more time. Okay. So the way we're going to go about doing this is, gosh, let me remember. We're going to be going vertically down. So instead of like horizontally across, we're going to be going like vertically down. So we're going to think of our ease of marketing, and we're going to do that for all of them. And then we're going to pop over to how much available money can we make in that, and we're going to do it for all of them and keep going across. So that way we're comparing these relative to one another. That's like the important piece of this. So so when we're talking about ease of marketing, that's something like, how easy is it for you to build a brand? If you need a brand to do what you're doing, how easy is it for you to create a website? Are you doing a lot of direct to consumer? So you need to be doing social media all the time or not? So like maybe that'll be really hard. I gotta be on social media. That's like a 2 for me. Or you're like, nope, gotta go to a farmer's market and talk all day. They do all the marketing for me. Awesome. That's like a 9. Oh, I can sell to just like, my local grocery store and I know like they'll take me. Awesome. That's a 10. Like I don't have to do anything. I just have that one in the bag. So you're going to go down and you're not thinking about this real hard. It's like, think of just like that intuitive thing that you're like, yeah, that's easy. That's hard. Yep. Okay. So the next one is the available money. How much money is there to be made in the different market streams? So maybe you're having to sell to grocers at a much lower price, but your farm stands like your premium price, like you can make money. You're not thinking of cost of doing business. That's the next one. You're just thinking about how much money can I make for the same bunch of carrots from a chef or in my CSA box. Yeah, versus other ones. Can you make a ton of money on classes? Cool. All right, the next one is the cost of doing business. So now you're thinking like, man, I got to drive 3 hours to drop and do this delivery routes. It takes so much time. Oh, it takes a ton of time to pack a CSA box. Like, wow, okay, the actual packing or farmers markets, man, I got to show up and drive there and stand all day, versus, oh, I just drop it off at a grocery store and that's quick. It's right down the street and I move like $800 all bam in one thing. Super easy. That's not even anything to go do. So, you're taking that of like after the cost of growing the carrot, how long is it, maybe you can like do bulk carrots instead of having to bunch each one. So it's going to be cheaper to just be sending your bulk carrots out to, restaurants versus bunching for farmers markets or something. And hire anybody else's hands, or if you're doing like a dinner at your place, do you need to buy extra ingredients and have buy in tables and rent cutlery and dishwashing stations? Yeah. All those costs, and then the future potential. This is a good one too. Like, are there lots of opportunities? So if you start selling, you're like, oh, I got my in with the salad mix at the grocery store. Oh, but then they have the cafe that I can get into. Oh, and they have another chain. Oh, they have 2 other locations. So if I get into this one location, now I have all this. And so can I do another delivery day on that same week? This farmers market is just going to be growing and growing. I just have such opportunity to like meet new clients. Um, or like for me, it's like, oh, do we do event flowers? And you're like, very crowded space, not a lot of potential there.
Can you talk about that one a little bit more? I'm having a hard time connecting.
Future potential. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, this is where we can romanticize it, be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to make my product and everyone's going to come to my farm stand, But like, if you think of how many people are actually in your community, so like Rachel, she's got a very small community. So how many people are actually there in her community? She doesn't have a whole lot of future potential to grow that farm stand because her community is really small. Yeah. Versus that, like, farmers market, like, oh, that's going to be around a long time. It's a growing market in a growing area. It's really popular versus going to like the small, sad farmers market in your neighborhood and we're the terrible farmers market manager. You're like, well, that one's probably not even going to be around in another year because the market manager is bad. Yeah. How much future potential is there with the CSA? I mean, there's a lot of competition now in the getting food delivered to your home space. A lot of competition. So, yeah, but if you're like, oh no, I'm already part of like a network of yoga studios and like I'm hooked up, dude. I just have my natural, it's going to be easy. I'd connect with this yoga studio and 10 other yogis and it's just going to grow from there. So, and then the last one's my favorite one, and that's joy versus drudgery. Like, this is your real gut instinctual of like, this brings me so much joy. I love doing this versus like, oh, really? Oh, I have to do this one. Like, oh man, I have to deal with brides. That sounds terrible. Like, no way. Yeah. Oh, I have to drive for like 20 hours a week. Oh, no way. Or like, oh my gosh, I get to go to a farmer's market and meet tons of people. I love it. Or, yeah, that gets to be your instinctual one. And then when you're done, you get to add them all up. And I'm going to share. They're not even. Okay. and you know what, we're going to get these numbers here. And now, you know, if I'm looking at ours, it's like herbal teas are like my baby and everything that I want, and they rank the lowest. It's like the only thing I really, really want to do, but like, man, how do I? It's 21. It's not even like, it's like a whole magnitude lower. But it's like, if I really want to be doing herbal teas, it's like, okay, then how can I make ease of marketing way easier? You know, so if we're seeing these numbers now ranking up, like, how can I switch something to like take the edge off when I'm looking now? How can I make doing herbal teas more joyful? Like, oh, maybe I'm doing it with community. So every time we're like processing herbs, I'm doing with a ton of people. Oh my gosh, now that's gonna be like my favorite thing to do, right? Um, Me personally, I love being around people. Um, so yeah, we can really start to think of how we want to switch things, because as we see our numbers come up, I'm like, oh man, I really wanted that one though. You can shift things a little bit more. But I do this, like we do this every year, especially as we're considering new enterprises. I think I same on our pros cons list, kind of same frequency. So it's like a new business, you may want to do this like twice a year, you know, right away, then doing it once a year, and then you know you can kind of check in on it, because as you start to get your um, flow for your business, then you're just thinking of how am I going to add on another enterprise, and where do they rank compared to these other things, because a new enterprise is always going to maybe be a little bit harder on the marketing or higher cost of business, but like if that joy and future potential is really really high, it's like it can really be worth it to like add in this new venture. um, so this is my fun little matrix. I love doing it. Do either of you have your final numbers?
This is such a great tool, Kat.
Yeah, it is.
I did
I
not
feel like
create it.
you say you didn't create
I
it.
didn't create it. I just had a joy and drudgery as an item.
I like that. That like drastically changed mine, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, such an important
thing. Because mine were all super close, but like the joy drudgery thing put I'm like, where are my ranks? Yeah, I feel like it put the I don't know, it just shifted it up. Whereas like a small business retailer, it's like the ease of marketing is super high, but like I hate driving. I would not want to spend my time if I was like delivering a bunch of things. I hate that. I would never want to I don't want to do that at all. So if it's super close to me, great. If it's far away, no way. That's not what I want to do. So it's just interesting. I feel like that is a really important piece because like that is your time and energy.
Yeah.
So it's
And
really
then you
important.
get to decide too. You're like, oh, well, I hate driving. How can I move that joy number up for business to business? Because I really do want to be there. I can hire a driver. My neighbor farm's going there. Let me hire them.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'd be really curious to do. I like can see why it'd be important to do every year because there's so many things that can there's so many like nuances within each category that could affect what that number is.
Yeah.
But yeah, really
Yeah, that's true.
Anna, any reflections for you?
Yeah, I have some blank squares just because it's like that time of the night where
Right.
my
Yes.
brain is
Yes.
shutting down. But I do like definitely want to finish this because
Yeah.
this is such a helpful visual and like what's the word? Like quantifying
Yeah.
things that I normally think of qualitatively, which I feel like is always helpful. Um, but I will say I think I was also thinking like, what are our different categories and would I lump like all the Fox Point businesses in one, or do we differentiate between the restaurant and the market and like Jenny's heel products and because technically they're all buying from us separately. But they all kind of lump into this like ease of the transportation, ease of ordering, cutting out like all the middleman costs, and it's kind of like a built-in like reliable
Yeah.
customer in that way. But there are some differences between them.
Yeah. Because the
Like
marketing might be easier, harder for restaurant versus harvest market?
Yes. Yeah. Or like with the harvest market, we're trying to make a lot of bundles and things that look really pretty
Ah,
and fresh
yeah.
versus the restaurant, like if they're making sauteed greens and smoothies, we can give them the like holy chard and collards and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's like differences in that, I
Yeah.
guess. Um, yeah, one reflection that I've had recently as well, I made like farm tours a separate category. And it's very low input from us. Like there's basically no setup or like 5 minutes of setup, if that. It's an hour of our time. And if it's a full tour, it's like a lot of money in just an hour that we make, like way more than we would in produce in an hour. So it's and the joy drudgery piece is interesting because like in the beginning when I started doing them, I loved doing it because we were so new and it was like the first time we were having people on the farm. But now because I've been the main one doing it and it's like my sixth day of work on a Saturday, it's like I always feel good after I do them, but I feel less excited to do them than I did in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an important note. You're like, ooh, feeling drudgery. Is there anybody else that would be excited to do them? Is there like, someone from the, yeah, you're like, oh, who else could do these? And like, how do I have that conversation? Yeah, it brings up good talking points. So,
Yes, delegation, training.
yeah, delegation's piece of it. Yeah, and then like stepping into like my herbal teas thing, it's like, how do I make it? How do I get that excitement, or time to do the thing. So yeah, it just brings all these questions up.
Mhm.
It's a fun one.
I hope you get to do teas. I want you to do
I
teas.
know it's like trying to think of the space, needing the growing space needed to do it,
Mm,
just make it scale because the cost of doing business is really high for like drying. You have to like harvest enough to dry enough in batches because you have to take samples of each batch that you're drying so that it meets quality standards because you're like feeding these herbs to people.
well,
My understanding for us to then be in like a grocery store and scale up to that
mhm.
level. And so I think
And when you
there's,
dry things, it's so much less than what you're growing.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like Jenny will tell you, like you go through so much product making teas, and
yeah.
they're a great seller. So it's like, how do you produce enough of the product to
Mm.
keep it going, and have that drying space and storage space? Those are lots of logistics. I think it's possible. I just gotta get there.
Wait, why is the joy only a 3 for herbal teas if that's something you really want to do?
Oh, well, that gets into personal stuff of me trying to throw roadblocks into my dreams. And because I don't want to know how brightly I can shine and how great my life can be. So I'm going to try and sabotage myself. And it doesn't feel good and it's scary.
Mm,
There's real talk for you.
So
mm.
should that be like a 10 or like a 9 at least? Maybe.
And all right, well, if I popped it at a 10, that would give me 7. Then it would be a 28. I think ease of marketing would be way higher now too, because that's another thing too, right? Like we didn't have the direct to market, and it was just like, ugh, man, having to do posts and trying to figure out how to reach people at that time was just like not going to happen. But now I have an employee, and she's so excited about doing this kind of work, so that makes it easy. Yeah, I have somebody on my team that can like support me. But if I, really was the herbs have been my own thing, not like an unsupported project of the farm. So, um, so having JJ now around like gives somebody who's supporting me in that effort a little bit more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes a
nuanced
huge.
stuff. Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah. good conversation stuff. Sienna, are you able to talk with the rest of your team at all about any of this stuff you're learning in class?
I not like specifics, but I did I've like mentioned a few times, I was like, oh my gosh, this class is so good and helpful, and especially after our chat last week. And I sent the other Sienna message today. I was like, you should join if you can, but she's out sick today. So
Yeah.
um but yeah,
That's just
I do think um I we don't have consistent built-in sit-down meeting time right now, like as an entire crew, but more importantly, even as just like our three kind of managers, like Greg, myself, and the other
yeah.
Sienna. Um, and so I like really want to make that a priority, and I think it would be good to build in some of these practices into those meetings, like to sit down and do this together. Because we like talk a lot about this, but I think it's another thing to like actually write it out and look at it and
Yeah, and be like, hey, this is where we're going, because it takes you out of this like visioning space, and you're like, oh, there's all these things, and it's really fun to be in the brainstorming space, and like then it's another thing to be in that implementary kind of place of like, this is what we're doing, and now it's boots on the ground, and like the visioning and the excitement has to come in these other realms that are in like a smaller detail. And
yeah.
I see, I guess just from like my experience, like running a business, it's like some with other people, it's like some people really want to be in that visioning space, and that's where they're really excited, you know? Or like when Wild Willow was getting developed, everyone was really excited talking about it. But then when you had to actually get the farm going, where was all the helpers at Wild Willow? You know, they came in a different form. So it's like people have their different strengths, and a way to reel in the visionaries and um, you know, Brian could do this too with all the different little micro enterprises happening. Which ones do you really want to do? Do you really want to bring in that, you know, build your own teddy bear machine yet or not? I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my God. Yeah. If you know anyone, if either of you know anyone who like would be into taking care of animals as like a part-time job, let us know.
You're like on that vein. Yes. There's animal lovers out there. Careful what you wish for, man. That's I'm gonna take this off recording.